Imagine making a song in your bedroom and it's so good it goes to #1 in 4 countries, gets a platinum and 3 gold records. That's what Jyoti Mishra did in 1996 with some free software, a couple of samples, and then playing and singing everything himself, recording to cassette. This is the story of Your Woman by Whitetown. In 1996, Jyoti was 30 and living in Derby in the UK. He had been in a band. The band was called Whitetown, which is how he felt, living as a brown man in a mostly white town of Derby. But the other members of the band had left one by one, so now it was a solo act. He'd been recording and releasing music for a while now on small labels, and one day he was listening to the soundtrack from a TV show called Pennies from Heaven. That's a drama show where characters occasionally start lip-syncing to 1930s big band songs for some reason.
Don't say things like that.
Oh, my woman, as mean as she can be. My woman, she makes a fool of me.
Now, Bob Hoskins, who you might know as one of the greatest film actors of his generation, or Mario in the Mario Brothers movie, is talking all over the intro here, so we'll have to come back to it. But first, let me tell you about the record that it comes from. My Woman by Lew Stone and his Monsignor Band. Now, Lew Stone was a band leader, born in London just a few years before Queen Victoria died. He was a talented footballer, and for a while he played football in the daytime and then was doing music at night. And if you're thinking, well, that doesn't sound very professional, you'd be right. Sorry if you don't like football, it must be everywhere right now. It's just a brief sidebar. But the teams that Lew Stone played for, Corinthians and Casuals SC, were both strictly amateur clubs. And this is when the game was divided into amateur players, who are often like rich kids from Eton and Harrow and other public schools. They believed that sport should be played for its own sake, and introducing money would ruin the game. And then there were professional players who needed the money, otherwise they'd be working all hours in a death trap factory and their kids would starve. Anyway, Corinthians, the team that Lew Stone played for, had a strict amateur ethos, and in fact, so strict they didn't like the idea of penalty kicks. If they were awarded a penalty kick, they would deliberately miss it, and if one was awarded against them, they would deliberately let it in. Anyway, when My Woman came out, Lew Stone was the band leader at the Monsignor Hotel in London, which is one of the best and most prestigious places in the city. He made records, gramophone records, but it was the 1930s, it was the Great Depression, no one was frittering money away on records when you could just listen to the radio for free. So Lew was also on the radio pretty frequently. And he made music for like 40-ish films. Basically, he was a big deal. So much so that his face was on not just 1, but 2 cigarette card series. So that intro then, My Woman by Lew Stone and the Monsignor Band. Jyoti pitched it up a couple of semitones to make his loop, and he was off. For the drums, Jyoti used an album by George Clinton, who's the funk legend from Parliament and Funkadelic. Now, a lot of people have sampled George Clinton and Parliament and Funkadelic, and it's interesting to compare the way he coped with that and Bob James, who I talked about in a previous video. Now, Bob, at least in the early 90s, hated being sampled and tried to stop it, whereas George really welcomed sampling and wanted to make it easier for people to sample him. So much so that he released an album called Sample Some of Disc, Sample Some of Dat, where the individual instruments from the tracks he was playing were separated out to make it easier. And it worked. Those samples from that album crop up on tracks by Nas and Gang Starr and Snoop Dogg and others. But Clinton wasn't doing it out of the goodness of his heart, and there were notes inside the album telling producers how they were allowed to use material. There was an address you had to write to tell them which sample you'd used, the name of your finished track, and then details about how much that sample was going to cost you. Basically, George didn't want any money down. There was just going to be a fee every time your track was bought. And the same fee really as if it was a cover version, with discounts if you were just using a little bit of the sample. Maybe just the drums you get a discount, just a single hit you get a discount. But Jyoti missed all of this and thought that once he bought the CD, all the samples were royalty free. Uh-oh. Clinton sued him and of course won, and he had to pay. The drums that are used on Whitetown's Your Woman, by the way, are the same drums that are used on Who Am I, What's My Name by Snoop Dogg. But I assume Dr. Dre had actually read the album print and paid the fees. And that's it for samples. The rest of Your Woman is Jyoti, playing a Moog, playing an Emax keyboard, playing a guitar. He recorded everything onto cassette, he mastered it himself. Jyoti sent demos to a handful of people, including Mark Radcliffe, who was a DJ on BBC Radio 1. Mark was an evening DJ hosting a specialist show for people who like slightly weird indie music. Like me, I used to listen to him all the time. The big DJ on Radio 1 at the time was Chris Evans, who pulled in massive numbers for his breakfast show. But Chris liked the occasional drink, and sometimes he wouldn't turn up for work in the morning. And when he did, Mark Radcliffe would sometimes fill in. And this is what happened in autumn of 1996. Chris Evans didn't turn up for work, Mark Radcliffe filled in for him, and he brought the record Your Woman with him and played it in the breakfast slot on BBC Radio 1. People loved it, and by the January, White Town was signed to EMI and the single was at number 1. It's an amazing track. I think because it's sampling a 1930s record, the vocals have this strange 1930s telephone quality to them, and yet the drums are kind of funk, hip-hop, and so is the bass line. It's almost hard to place when it was made, and it's kind of timeless for that reason. Dua Lipa sampled it for a massive hit last year. Other people have sampled it over the last few years. I think it's one of those records that keeps coming back because it's got this timeless quality. White Town's still recording music. Jyoti Mishra is a huge hero of mine for what he achieved with White Town. I think to be able to record something in your bedroom that then goes to number 1 around the world is just incredible. And it's a great track as well. This is Singapore, by the way. I live in Singapore.